In today's business world, technology isn't just some nice-to-have add-on. It's the engine driving everything. The pace of change has gotten so incredibly fast that every single organization, big or small, now has to think like a digital enterprise. So what does that actually mean for you? Well, today, we're opening up the Digital Transformation Toolkit. We're going to dive into the key technologies that are reshaping our world and show you how to build a modern business strategy around them. Let's get into it.
Yeah, this quote really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? In a world that's always changing, just sitting back and being comfortable is probably the biggest risk you can take. Sticking to the old ways isn't just, outdated, it's a direct path to getting left in the dust by competitors who are faster and more tech-savvy. The game has totally changed, and the very first step is just admitting that the old rulebook doesn't apply anymore.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at this huge wave of digital disruption that's changing everything. Then, we're going to open our toolkit and check out 4 really powerful technologies. We're talking AI, cloud computing, connected ecosystems, and even 3D printing. And then we'll wrap up by focusing on what might be the most critical tool of them all, the digital mindset. Okay, let's set the stage a little. The Industrial Revolution was a massive shift. But this digital revolution, it's happening at a speed that's just mind-blowing. And this creates this kind of two-sided coin for businesses. On one side, there are massive opportunities for anyone who can adapt, and on the other, some really serious existential threats for those who don't. This slide just nails the idea of disruption. I mean, just think about Uber for a second. The company doesn't own a single car, yet it completely turned the entire taxi industry on its head. Why? Because its business model is fundamentally different. It's built on technology first, which let it slash costs and create a user experience that the old-school taxi companies just couldn't compete with. And we're not talking about small potatoes here. Look at this number, $4.7 trillion. That's what Goldman Sachs estimates that these new fintech startups could pull away in annual revenue from traditional banks and financial companies. This number just screams how big the financial threat of digital disruption really is, even for industries you'd think are totally locked down and established. So how are companies creating this kind of disruption? Well, a lot of the time, it starts with the first tool in our kit, artificial intelligence, or AI. At its core, AI is all about trying to create intelligent machines that can learn, plan, and solve problems. And the engine that's been driving almost all the incredible breakthroughs in AI lately is something called machine learning. So machine learning kind of comes in 3 main flavors. First up, you've got supervised learning. This is like teaching a student with a textbook that already has the answers in the back. You feed it labeled data, like say pictures of cats labeled cat and dogs labeled dog, and it learns to tell the difference. Then there's unsupervised learning. With this, you basically give the algorithm a giant messy pile of unlabeled data, like all your customer activity, and you just say, go find some patterns. It might discover totally hidden groups of customers you never even knew existed. And finally, there's reinforcement learning. This one's like training a puppy with treats. The algorithm learns by trying things out, taking actions, and getting rewards for good results. It just keeps getting better and better until it achieves its goal, like mastering a game or maximizing investment returns. Okay, so what does this mean in the real world? Well, for finance professionals, the opportunities are huge. AI can automate all those tedious tasks like accounting entries and do it with amazing accuracy. It can build these incredibly sophisticated models to spot fraud way better than any human could. It can help you create much more accurate revenue forecasts, and it can even read through unstructured stuff like legal contracts and emails to pull out key information. The big takeaway here is that AI can free up people to focus on the more important, high-value work. But, and this is a really important reminder, AI is not some magic box that's just like a human brain. It's a completely different kind of intelligence. The real power here doesn't come from replacing humans. It comes from figuring out the best ways for humans and these powerful machines to work together, combining our unique strengths to do things neither of us could do alone. Now, to run all these powerful AI models, you need some serious computing muscle. And that brings us right to our second tool, which is basically the foundation for so many modern innovations, cloud computing. Instead of having to own and maintain all your own physical computers and servers, the cloud lets you access all those services over the internet from a provider. It lets you power your business from literally anywhere. Moving to the cloud is really all about this central trade-off. You get incredible flexibility, collaboration, and power, but you have to give up some control. For a small company, this is an absolute revolution. It gives them access to tools and infrastructure that used to be only for the giant corporations, which really levels the playing field. But it also means you're now relying on your provider. If they go down, you go down. You have to navigate all these complex regulations about where your data is stored, and you constantly have to be on guard against security risks. It's a super powerful partnership, for sure, but one that needs to be managed very carefully. Our third tool takes us into the world of connected ecosystems. And here, we're going to look at two really transformative technologies, the Internet of Things, or IoT, and blockchain. And what they both have in common is creating secure, interconnected networks for data and for value.
So the Internet of Things is, well, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's about putting little computing devices into everyday objects, everything from factory machines to the smart thermostat in your house, and connecting them to the internet so they can send and receive data. But here's the crucial point, especially for business. There has to be a commercial logic to it. You don't just connect things for the fun of it, you do it to improve productivity or create some kind of new value. And the scale of this opportunity is just staggering. Projections are showing that by 2030, there could be 1 trillion connected devices all over the globe. I mean, just stop and think about the amount of data, the new services, and the totally new business models that are going to be built on top of that massive network. It's a whole new frontier.
All right, next up is blockchain. Now, this is a technology that can seem really complex, but this definition from the Bank of England just makes it beautifully simple. It's a technology that allows people who don't know each other to trust a shared record of events. That's it. It's a technology for creating trust in a digital world.
So how does it build that trust? Well, let's walk through the steps. First, a transaction is broadcast to every single person in the network. Second, computers all over that network work together to verify that the transaction is legitimate. Third, once it's verified, it gets added as a new block, which is cryptographically linked to the one before it, forming this, well, a chain. And fourth, this is the magic part. That record is now permanent. It can't be changed without the agreement of the entire network, which makes it incredibly secure.
For finance, this is a total game changer. It dramatically cuts the cost of having to maintain and reconcile ledgers, because everyone's looking at the exact same trusted record. It gives you absolute certainty over who owns an asset and its entire history, whether that's a house or a share of stock. And all that clarity frees up valuable resources to focus on strategic work, not just boring record keeping. All right, for our final tool, we're taking a little trip from the purely digital world back into the physical one. We're talking about 3D printing, a technology that isn't just making manufacturing a little better, it's completely reimagining how we make things from the ground up.
The promise of 3D printing is absolutely immense. It can drastically reduce waste, slash transportation costs, and allow for on-demand customization of almost anything. But the challenges are just as significant. The initial cost for the printers is high, and there's a huge skills gap. And more importantly, it opens up a total Pandora's box of legal and ethical issues. I mean, what happens when someone can just download and print a patented replacement part for their car, completely bypassing the manufacturer? Or even worse, an untraceable weapon? These are the really complex questions that businesses have to start dealing with now. So, we've looked at AI, the cloud, IoT, blockchain, and 3D printing. That's a lot. But honestly, none of these incredible tools will work without the final, and I mean most important piece of the puzzle.
And this really gets to the core message of this whole explainer. The most powerful tool in your digital transformation toolkit, it isn't a piece of software or a new gadget. It's a mindset. It's a fundamental shift in perspective to see your entire organization as a digital enterprise, through and through. Without that cultural change, even the best, most expensive technology is going to fail. A failure of mindset can be way more disastrous than a failure of technology. Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Take a hard look at your own organization, your own team, or even just your own career path, and ask yourself this question. Are you building a digital enterprise, or are you just waiting to be disrupted?